Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Health Made Simple Show. I'm your host, Dr. Bart, and today we're going to do a deep dive into a little bit of a different topic. Today, we're going to talk about where do we start? Where do we start when it comes to making that next change? Where do we start when it comes to that next thing that we want when it comes to our health? Now, with that being said, even if you're a seasoned veteran, like myself, I consider myself a seasoned veteran when it comes to trying to level up my health and doing more and more deep dives. So no matter where you are, whether you are a first timer and you're just looking to get into the game of becoming a healthier human being, or you are a seasoned veteran, listen closely. This is going to be a great opportunity. And here's why I'm doing this. A great opportunity to really understand, what do we do first? Like, what should we focus on? How do we simplify this whole thing? Here's why I'm doing this. As a healthcare practitioner, I hear some lofty goals, and I love them. If you saw my list of what I have, my objectives this year for just my health, it would blow your mind. My action list is massive. My intention list is massive. And I want to be able to achieve all those things, and that's going to be the goal. The challenge is, for many of us, it is, where do I start? And how do I get the momentum going? And if I can get the momentum going, and that's really what it's all about. So that's what we're going to focus on. Where do we start on all three things? And the three things I'm going to talk about today. So we're going to leave out relationships today, and we're going to leave out we'll say your wealth in your relationships. But we are going to talk about your health. Truth is, you can apply exactly what I'm talking to those two categories as well. But nonetheless, we're going to talk predominantly about your health. And in doing so, and again, this is for anybody you know, maybe, and this is funny because I just had a conversation with some friends, and one of the wives said, and my husband said he's going to do all these different things. He doesn't exercise at all, but he's going to all of a sudden start lifting X amount of days and running X amount of days and doing all these things in his diet, and then he hasn't started any one of them. And I see that all the time. So I want to do my best to narrow this down. And then you may find, because most likely if you're listening to this, you're already on your health journey. You're already starting and you're doing many good things. And yet the quest to continue to do better still remains. And I get that. And I pray that never goes away for you for many reasons. Yet you might be wondering, where do I start? Because there's so many things that we keep learning about. I just had conversations about creatine. We just had conversations about methylene blue. There's so many things. With all that being said, I will also say this year, buckle down, because you're going to hear more things than you've heard in the past. And the things that you're going to hear in the past, most of them will be described or kind of balked at and said, oh, that's conspiracy theory. Oh, you're a whack job, or whatever it may be. Not now. The gates are open. You're going to hear more and more. And a lot of good things are going to be spoken about. A lot of things we're going to have conversations about without being shunned, without being silenced, without being suppressed in terms of our conversations. Freedom of speech is going to happen. Yet what that also means is this, is that a lot of people are going to have massive confusion. So I'm going to do my best today to start to slow it down, to reel us in. All of the information is wonderful. Take it all in. But most of all, we need to be action takers. And I'm going to get to that very statement in just a moment here. All right. So keep doing your thing. Keep sharing out. Keep spreading love. I appreciate that you guys continue to do it, meaning that apparently everyone keeps sharing the show to other people, their friends, their family. And how do we know? Because there's more and more people that we're able to impact. So keep doing that. That's the exact purpose of this podcast. All right. So we'll dive in. This might go quick, might not. We'll see. All right. Where do we start? So let's first just tackle the topic of the physical body. So many of us, probably the number one goals that we have when the year starts is we're going to change the physical body. For some of you, that means you're going to put on more muscle. Some of you are going to get a little fitter. Some of you are just going to start exercising. Some of you are going to cut a couple pounds. Let me tell you where to start. So we're going to narrow this down. So tomorrow morning, today, you know what course of action to start right away, so you can start to achieve some of your goals. So we're going to do this. If you are not exercising currently in this year, right now, whether you're listening to this mid-year or we're beginning part of January right now, if you're currently not exercising and you have exercise goals, you're going to join a gym and you're going to exercise, you're going to lift weights 3 times a week, etc., or whatever it may be. You're going to run twice a week, or you're going to run a half marathon this year. The very first thing, if you are not currently exercising, this is for everyone listening to this. And yes, every single one of us should be exercising on a daily basis. The very first thing you do is commit to the time. Never mind the exercise, never mind how much of it, you commit to the time. And I'm going to help you on this as well. I'm going to tell you right now, to make this successful, the majority of you are going to be more successful if you commit that time to first thing in the morning. It is in the morning where there's a more likelihood that you're going to be able to exercise. As the day goes, there's more likely there's going to be excuses, random things that pop into our lives, the kids, the business meetings, the conversations, the weather, the traffic, all of the above that can interfere. Yet the first thing in the morning is most likely where you're going to score. So if you or someone you know has exercise as part of their goals, and if you're not exercising, that should be one of your first goals, got to exercise. We know right now that the long-term downslide of not exercising on a daily basis is very, very detrimental to our overall health and very difficult to overcome. So that being said, we're going to all make a commitment to exercising. Where's the first place you start? With the time commitment. Make that time commitment 15 minutes in the morning. But no, I'm going to do it for an hour. I'm going to work out 7 hours a week. No, just start 15 minutes a day. Once you start the momentum and you do it consistently, sure, expand it. Do you need to join a fancy gym or get some fancy shoes or socks or whatever it may take? Maybe, but I'm going to tell you right now, get up, block out the time. Most likely that means you have to get up earlier than you currently do. These are good things because most likely you could go to bed earlier and so you can get up earlier. So number one, where do we start? You're going to start with commitment to time. Time of the day, then the allotment of time. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you are not exercising, just commit 15 to 20 minutes. No matter what guru talks about how long you're supposed to exercise, make it 15 to 20 minutes. Here's what I know happens. You start, you've committed to 15 minutes. You're thinking to yourself, I can do 15 minutes. You start, you're exercising, you get a little groove going on, and you always go past 15 minutes. How do I know this? I see it happen. I've seen this happen 1,000 times before. But give yourself the permission to say 15 minutes is all I need to commit to. That is something that your brain can then say, I can do this. All right, now let's take a moment here and say you already are an experienced exerciser. You already have the time commitment down. You're doing it on a daily basis. You've been doing it for years. Where do you start this year? Here's where you start. We're going to break down your health, your physical health, into 3 categories: your strength, your mobility, and your endurance. One of those, my friend, is your weak link. No doubt about it. We hear now more and more often through all the podcasts, which are amazing, that we hear how important physical strength is, that we have to put on muscle. I couldn't agree more. We absolutely have. And I'll also say this, that as a chiropractor, someone who's worked with physical bodies for the last 28 years of my life, almost 3 decades, probably full with my training, at least 3 decades now. With that being said, I know this. If you don't have mobility, you're in trouble. I don't care how strong you are. How do I know this? I have guys that come into my office strong as an ox. They literally can lift a house if they need it. Well, maybe not a house, but you know what I'm saying. Strong as can be, but they can't move. They can't tie their own damn shoes. And I'm not exaggerating. They get a big fat gut in front of them and they can't bend over and tie their shoes. They can't reach behind the driver's seat and grab a bag from the back. They have issues with this. They have issues bending down and playing with their 1-year-old on the ground because they can't get up and off the ground. That's a mobility issue. So if you're an experienced exerciser, just ask yourself and be honest. This is the big challenge. Be honest. Where's your weak link? Is it with your physical strength? Ladies, most of you, that's going to be it. And it might be a little intimidating thing. Man, I got to use some weights. Yes. And there's other options here. Anyways, look for your weak link and make the commitment to that one thing, that very one thing. So there are going to be other goals that you're going to have. You're going to say, well, I want to become more flexible this year. And true, that's mobility. You might want to be able to run a marathon this year. Awesome. Whatever it may be, but start with the weak link. Let's start balancing it out. Here's why. Because when you do that, you'll feel more well-rounded. If you have other goals, you're going to take up tennis this year. You're going to take up pickleball or whatever it may be. For me, I've made a commitment that I got to get back to jiu-jitsu. Last year was probably the least amount of jiu-jitsu I practiced in years. And I got all my excuses for it. But this year I have to start figuring that out. What's the first thing I'm going to do? Is look at where I'm going to fit it in time-wise. So I'm starting from scratch as kind of an amateur right there in terms of how much Where am I in that ladder? Have I committed any time last year? No, that was my problem. So now to overcome, because my desire is to get back on the mats and get physically fit and to get into that mode again, first thing I have to do is make sure I allot the time. The other categories, yeah, I'm pretty strong this year. I've been working on my strength the last couple of years. I would say that my mobility is probably pretty good. My weak link, cardio. So this year, I'm allotting more time for jujitsu, and I'm going to put my emphasis on cardio. How many times per week? Well, listen, the way my male brain works, it's 3 days a week, 4 days a week, X amount of miles. The way my realistic brain works is once a week. That's it. Just one time a week. Just do more than I currently am. What does that mean for me? I already walk a lot. I walk a tremendous lot. I do have a stationary bike, but my goal is that I just start doing 1 mile at a time. And for many of you, that sounds like probably a pretty low benchmark, yet that's going to be my benchmark. 1 mile at a time of being able to jog or run. We'll see what happens after that. So those are just examples here. So where do we start? If you're not exercising, you start with a time allotment. If you're already exercising, you focus on your weak link. That's it, folks. That is it in a nutshell. You focus on your weak link. Here's what some of you are probably going to need. You're probably going to need some accountability. You're probably going to need some accountability, which would be in terms of a trainer, someone that can make the assessments and say, you know what, you're really good over here, and that's why you want to keep doing that one. And that's what we do. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, I want to go and lift some weights. I want to go bench press, right? I'm good at those things. But what am I not so good at? I'm not so good at doing like a Peloton or running down the road and that kind of stuff. So I know where the weak links are. You might not be willing to acknowledge your weak links. So maybe you need to get yourself a personal trainer this year. Maybe you need to get some accountability. Maybe you need a workout partner that their strength might be in your weakness. All right, let's roll on to number 2 here. So this is probably the second, if not the very first big goal of the new year. And that's you're going to change the ways of how you eat. And there's a lot of reasons for this. You might want to get rid of some brain fog, but typically it's because you want to drop a couple pounds. Maybe you want the 6-pack back, or maybe you want the first 6-pack ever. Usually, though, eating is on our goal of things that we're going to change. So again, I'm going to break this down into 2 categories. One, the novice, you've really not done anything when it comes to your diet. You haven't flexed any disciplines. You don't really have a program. You don't have a certain level of standards that you don't really have any standards when it comes to eating right now. You just kind of do whatever it takes, or you just kind of go by, like some days, man, I'm not going to get fries today. Maybe that's your big thing. Yet, for those people, I'm going to give you the answer for that one. And then also, if you're experienced like myself and you are eating pretty damn good, where most people might look at what you're doing and say, man, you've got an impeccable diet. Is there room for improvement? Sure is. All right, so let's break these 2 down. Let's just say that you are a newbie. You are a beginner to nutrition, and you're looking for something that moves the needle the most. Here's what I'm going to tell you, folks. It comes down to 2 very simple things. We have weak links, and we won't even need to address those. But I'm going to tell you 2 biggest needle movers right now, because they're going to take massive amounts of discipline, more than people think. You're going to either eliminate and or avoid one or both of these next 2 things I'm going to mention. Number 1 is going to be alcohol. If you want to move the needle, if you drink alcohol and you're having it 3, 4, 5 times a week, where you are consuming a glass of wine or more per night, and you're doing that 3, 4, 5 times a week, and you eliminate alcohol out of your life. With alcohol, by the way, as you know, is a poison. There's no other way to shake it down. It's a poison to the human body. And here's what I know. This is the kind of cool part. Over the years, I've literally helped thousands of people recognize that maybe alcohol isn't the best thing for them. Maybe the very person they're looking to be exists on the other side of putting a poisoning into their body. And what I've discovered, every single person over the nearly 3 decades that I've been practicing, I've never had one person say to me, not once, people that have given up alcohol said, man, I shouldn't have done that. I feel awful. No one says it. Nobody does. So with that being said, maybe giving up alcohol, and this is a big one, folks. If you're drinking wine on a regular basis, you are not a better dad, you're not a better mom, not a better teacher, not a better coach, you're not a better human, period. So if you're drinking alcohol, that would be a good place to start. And I will tell you what, not going to be easy for many reasons. So let me tackle the second one as well. If you're going to give up a food, And this is where I typically start, because you're going to have to flex discipline to really change how you eat. And you got to tackle the big boys. And I'm going to tell you, give up gluten. Don't worry about the rest. And yes, we can get super analytical about so many things when it comes to nutrition. But if these two things are in your life, that's where you go. Gluten, that's going to cover all of the things like bread, muffins, pasta, pancakes, crackers, all of that stuff that is in cereals, that it's in our life on a regular basis. For most Americans, it's 70% of our diet is going to come from wheat and things like gluten, bread, and muffins and pasta. They're in our lives every single day. But man, if you tackle those, that will be the single biggest needle that you move. In the event, and how do I know this? So listen, again, thousands of people get those two things out, and that opens up the gates. Is it over there? There's everything perfect? No. But those are going to be the biggest ones you tackle, and the goals that you really have with your health, anything, whether it be your physical body and or your overall health, your gut, your skin, your eyes, your brain fog, everything. It's going to require you to get rid of the biggest challenges that you have that are down regulating human function, and alcohol is one of them. And it is no doubt gluten. Is it just gluten? No, it's all of the above. In case there's someone out there trying to correct me and say, well, it's not just gluten, it's the glyphosate. I agree. Is it the processed wheat? I agree 100%. It's GMO, all of that applies. But if you just decide to cut gluten out, it's everything that says gluten-free, good for you? No. But if you just start going 100% no gluten, you take some alcohol out of your life, you're going to be a better person this year, I promise you. Defy me. So go ahead and call me back or write me back or send me an email or text me, whatever, and tell me after 6 months to a year that you've taken out gluten, you've taken out alcohol, that things are worse off for you in terms of your health. It won't happen. So with that being said, let's move on to the experienced individual like myself, like you, most of you listening to this. Some of you have already made those changes and you've taken the gluten out. Some of you have dabbled. Real quickly, just because this comes up all the time, I had someone come into the clinic the other day and say, well, doc, my doctor tested me for celiac and they said I don't have a gluten allergy. Stop, folks. That's not what we're talking about. That's different. That is an antibody that your body has an allergy to. We're talking about foods that create sensitivities in the body that create inflammation in the body. Gluten is always going to be in that category. Some of you will recognize it, some of you won't. My encouragement is this: when you go cold turkey, unfortunately, gluten and grains have the ability to, you could have it one time in a month and it can create enough of an inflammatory response to last 30, 60, 90, 100 days. So getting it completely out of your diet is the way that I'm suggesting it, not kind of sort of. A lot of people do the kind of sort of, don't really see the massive benefits that most of us have experienced by getting them out of your life. All right, so alcohol, gluten out. Now listen, if you are you're experienced in your nutrition, you know things, you know how to look at things and go, you know what, I've got out the seed oils, I've gotten rid of most of the processed foods, I'm moving in the direction of mostly organic however I can. I'm doing better with my proteins. So where do you go with this? Here's where you go. You still have a weak link, I promise you, just like I do. Each one of us has a weak link, and it's going to come down to one of two things. And here's the challenge when it comes to nutrition. We get comfortable. We get comfortable where we're doing much better, and overall we say, man, I'm doing pretty good. So we still allow one or two things that we know are not good for us, or we know are still not the best version of. And I kind of like this. I kind of like the fact that I know at any given time, I could ramp it up again. And you're listening to, and you're probably thinking the same thing. If I had to, could you ramp it up? If you had to ramp up your nutrition, could you? Yes. And that's where you're going to go after your weak link. So most of us, it's going to boil down to a single thing. And the single thing is this: we still overconsume. We eat too much food. Why are we eating too much food? Why are we eating gluten all the time? Why do we have alcohol? And here's why, folks. We've been trained since about the time we were 2 years old that the solve to everything, all your emotions, all your good times and all your bad times, all get solved with a little bit of alcohol and a little bit of food. And we've been hypnotized. We've been reprogrammed. We've on a cellular level, our bodies now think the answer to everything is food and alcohol. And once you break that cycle, you unleash a version of you that you probably haven't seen before, a person that you don't even know. And I'm going to encourage you, keep going there. And I'll explain to you why in just a moment here. So if you're a seasoned veteran, find your weak link and pay attention to volume. That means we're going to probably have to measure things. A little uncomfortable, absolutely. But right at this point, just take a peek at how much are you eating on a daily basis. Most likely, if you're looking for one place to start this year, allow yourself to eat probably a little bit less. If you're eating clean, you're not going to have a nutrient deficiency. You're just going to have less volume, but you're probably going to have plenty of nutrients. And I'm also going to give you, I'll throw it in right now. In the event your part of your health goals this year is to look at where would I supplement? What supplements to begin with? And listen, there are so many, hundreds of vitamins and minerals and herbs. I'm going to give you a punch list. 3. That's it, just 3. And you could argue about everything else, but I'm going to tell you clinically. These are the 3 that if you just started with these, you are making huge waves. And if these are the only 3 you do, you are setting yourself up for a victory in terms of using proper supplementation to advance your overall health. And these are not some crazy things you've never heard of or only found in some small portion or corner of the earth. Here we go. First one, I'm encouraging you to have a fish oil in your life, which is basically omega-3. My favorite overall, the most collective overall best one out there is cod liver oil. I'm a little bit biased in terms of the company and the quality you get. I use Standard Process. There's probably some other good companies out there as well. Why cod liver oil over all of even a tuna oil or any other type? The reason cod liver oil to me still is the best of the best is because it certainly has your omega-3s. It has the DHA. It has EPA. But it also has naturally occurring vitamin A and vitamin D. And that is very rare. So we have immune support on a regular basis in the vitamin A that protects the cell. Remember, those are the fat-soluble lipids. They're protecting the cell. And they're part of the immune system, part of what your immune system uses to continue to protect and defend you. So cod liver oil, absolutely. That'd be supplement number 1. Number 2, probably the most efficient nutrient across the board for everybody. And again, because I still practice, folks, and again, there's so much wonderful stuff that we can learn from Instagram and learn from Facebook, yet there's nothing that overrides the experience of a practitioner. So for the last 30 years, hands down, if there was one supplement that I see move the needle the most and probably the most efficient and most needed and most beneficial when they start bringing back into your lives is magnesium. I use one very specifically called magnesium lactate. It's probably I would say it's the most consistent across the board. There are a lot of good magnesiums out there, some that work more for the musculoskeletal system, some work more for the gut, some work more for the brain. Magnesium lactate, very consistent, very gentle on the body, and it does a little bit of all 3. And that's why I have so much success with it clinically. I usually recommend anywhere from a low end of about 200 to 300 milligrams. That's the very, very low end, but usually 400, 500, 600 milligrams a day is ideal for us. So cod liver oil, magnesium, the 3rd, again, super not sexy. It is not some magical herb, and I love herbs. It's a digestive enzyme. The majority of people right now, all of us, especially if you're past your 30s, our ability to break down food is being inhibited because of all the things that we put into our body and the nonstop toxins that we're exposed to, along with the nonstop stressors that we have. Our ability to produce in a timely fashion, in the appropriate dosing from our stomach, something called hydrochloric acid is reduced across the board. So when we start to add a good digestive enzyme, I'm going to make sure this is in the show notes for you, something called Zypan. It's predominantly a hydrochloric acid, and there's some other supplements out there that do the same thing. It also has a little bit of what's called pepsin. Pepsin is an enzyme that helps us break down protein. Why do I think these 2 digestive enzymes are so important? Folks, we need more protein. A lot of people lean away from protein, especially red meat, because they say it doesn't make them feel good. Folks, that is a red flag. There's nothing wrong with red meat. If red meat doesn't make you feel good, it is because you have an inability to break it down. And I see this across the board. If we can't break it down properly, that is when even good foods start to create problems in the body. So our ability to break down and assimilate those nutrients back into the body, that's the art of good nutrition with good assimilation, good digestion. So those 3 supplements, real simple: cod liver oil, magnesium, lactate, and Zypam. All right, let me get to this last part. We're going to wrap this up. So we talked about moving. We talked about eating. If those are your goals, we know exactly what to do there. The last part is how we think. Now, I know going into the new year, we're not often thinking, man, I'm going to think better this year. Yet, at the same time, you might be thinking, I need to level myself up. And I'm going to break this down into two simple categories. One, I would say this. Leveling up our mindset is often overlooked. Number two, though, same time, sometimes we're too much involved in just trying to read books, go to seminars, have personal coaches, and all the above, and we're not taking enough action. So let's address both of those. First is this. If you're not doing anything to have something else lead your mind, trust me, it's being led, but you're not choosing what it is. So we want to be very specific about where the predominant thoughts are coming from and who we're giving that power to. So I'm going to encourage you to always be involved in reading and or listening. So I listen to a lot of books now, listen to some type of book on personal development. That means at least one per month, But Doc, I heard I should read a book a day. Don't worry about it. That's too much information for us to continue to bring into our minds and our bodies to put into actionable steps. And then we become kind of numb to all of the information. I've seen a lot of that. Frankly, I've been in that category where I've gone to too many seminars too quickly, read too many books where I didn't really take the book in, take the concepts, the ideas, and the value of the book and all this brilliant thinking that other authors, other incredible men and women have articulated and put into words on paper for me then to do my best to digest these and implement them in our lives. And that's the art of reading a book. Can you read it and implement it? So I'm going to recommend, if you're not doing anything in that category, at least one per month. In fact, only one a month if you're not doing anything else. Implement. Some of you are rock stars in this category. Some of you are able to bring it in, add it into your realm of consciousness and your ability to take action. Wonderful. Number two is this. If you're getting too much, slow her down. Now we're going to shift this conversation into where we all want to be. We would like to every morning. So this is in the think category. We talked about moving, we talked about eating. Now we're going to talk about thinking. This is my favorite way of articulating this. We want to be able to wake up in the morning. And when we get up in the morning, we are thinking that the future looks bright. And this only happens if two things are happening simultaneously. The future looks bright if these two things are happening simultaneously. Number one, you have a plan. Literally, you have a strategy about your health, your wealth, and your relationships that you're getting up knowing that you have a plan for what you're going to do to maximize, to improve any one of those, your health, your wealth, and your relationship. Not or, but an and for all three of those. So one, you have a plan. And number two, you're taking action. Literally, you are taking action. You're not just reading books and putting it down and saying, yeah, I know that, I know this. You are taking action. And every single day, you get taught what else you need to do for tomorrow. So if we are looking to improve the way that we think on any given day, just ask yourself, do you think that the future looks bright? And in that moment, there's a lot that should be going through your brain. Are there times that you let the boogly woogly, I call it the itty bitty shitty committee, do you let that part of your brain that says, man, well, the economy's off a little bit, politics, this person's going to be president, this is going on in my marketplace, all of the above. If those things are entering your brain, no, then you're probably not thinking that the future's bright. Now, here's the deal. No matter what the economy is, no matter who is president, there's always opportunity for success. That is why we always see people leading. We always see people advancing, no matter what the time is, no matter what the economy is. There's always somebody winning. Someone's always on top. And that could be you and I. But to do that, we're going to have to put our blinders on. We're going to have to narrow down the outside thoughts, the outside voices, the outside noise. And to do that, we're going to have to be very specific. One, we have to have a plan. And that's where all the things that we just talked about, plan how you move, how you eat, how you think, all of the above. We have a plan / a strategy, and every single day we act upon it. And my friends, if we start doing that, future looks bright. Why do I bring all this to you? Why do I say any of these things? Why do we need to continue to improve ourselves? You don't need to do anything, but here's what I would say. As you do these things, here's what I've discovered, and I've watched literally, and I've been able to help literally at this point hundreds of thousands of people in my life. And what I recognize is a couple of things. One, that when you get to that next level, it starts to open up your mind to, my goodness, I didn't know this was possible. What else might be possible? And if you'd asked me 15 years ago, if I wanted to own and operate multiple businesses, speak around the country, have a pretty rigorous travel schedule, to take care of my own farm, to be taking care of 8 different dogs, all of the above, and still try to be an awesome husband, the best that I can, to take good care of my own health, to exercise regularly, to eat impeccably. If you asked me this 15 years ago, I would have told you absolutely no way. I didn't have the energy. Frankly, I didn't have the health. As I started to do these things, the very things that we're talking about now, I started to move my body better. I started to eat a little bit better. I started to think a little bit better. No one thing was the magic. It was the consistency, the persistency over time, little pieces here and there. And now what it's done is opened up my eyes and opened up the possibility that, hey, listen, as I move closer to, and I don't even know what the best version of myself is, the doors open up. That's when the possibilities open up. So when someone asks me, Doc, why do you do so many things? Why do you have all the businesses? Why are you so involved in real estate? Or why do you also want to do this, that, and the other? And the simple answer I have for that is this, is because I can. And I believe that our Creator gave us the opportunity, gave us all the tools, the blueprint for us to experience all the wonderful things that this world has to offer. So that's why I shared this podcast with you. So where do we start? We start with some of the most fundamental, easy breezy things. With that being said, hopefully you enjoyed this podcast. Share it with someone. Share it with someone you think that might benefit from just hearing these couple little nuggets here. And with that being said, come join us on the next podcast. Appreciate you. Make sure that we're taking deliberate action for your mind, your body, your overall wellness. Y'all be awesome.